Dopey Podcast. Dopey Podcast.
Well, now is the time for the Dopey Podcast, where you call in and put all your life on blast, and you call in and talk about your past, because your life was furious, hardcore and fast. So now is the time for the Dopey Podcast.
Dopey Podcast.
It's the Dopey Podcast, the Dopey Podcast, yo. This is the Dopey Podcast. This is the Dopey Podcast. Now if your life was furious, hardcore and fast, you feel like you want to put your life on blast, just call up the show and I talk about your past, cause now is the time for the Dopey Podcast.
Dopey Podcast.
It's the Dopey Podcast, the Dopey Podcast, yo. This is the Dopey Podcast. This is the Dopey Podcast.
This episode of Dopey is brought to you by our friends at Oro Recovery. Created by our friend Bob Forrest and his friends Evan, Jared, and Bob to create a rehab institution that treats addicts and alcoholics with compassion and connection rather than control. The staff there has decades and decades and decades of experience in treating addiction and co-occurring mental health disorders, including SMI. They make sure your detox is as comfortable as possible, which is very important when you're kicking drugs like alcohol or heroin or crack or coke or anything, of course. They have amenities you wouldn't believe, including equine therapy, the incredible sound bath meditation, surfing, and of course, the potentially spiritually transformative sweat lodge. If you're fucked and you want to get some help, I highly recommend going to sunny Southern California and checking out Oro. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our friends at Knockin' Doors Down, a podcast with the mission to end the stigma around addiction and mental health, with humorous, honest, and vulnerable conversations featuring guest celebrities, experts, and everyday people. Celebrity guests sharing their stories of addiction and mental health issues include Brandon Novak, Carmen Electra, Scott Stapp from Creed, Lamar Odom, Caitlyn Jenner, The Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, and me, Dave from Dopey, because I'm right up there with The Nature Boy. Anyway, it's co-hosted by Jason, who's in recovery for addiction, childhood trauma, sexual trauma, and a family lineage of addiction. Co-hosted by Mikey, who struggles with substance abuse and mental health issues, including depression and anxiety. Knockin' Doors Down is available wherever you get your podcasts, and you can check out their incredible video stuff at kddpodcast.com. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our friends at Sober Buddy. Love Sober Buddy. I know I've talked to you guys about the Sober Buddy app before, and I think you should check it out. But what I want to tell you today is that Sober Buddy has just opened up a crowdfunding campaign that allows you or me to own a piece of the company, which is pretty amazing to me. You help them raise the money they need, and they give you shares. It's a win-win. You can purchase shares in the regular CF offering and raise capital for future expansion. And CF, of course, is crowdfunding. You can find the link to their campaign on dopeypodcast.com or on their website, yoursoberbuddy.com. Sober Buddy has already helped over 30,000 people on their sober journey, and this is your chance to help them get their app out to even more people. So check it out. Give them some love to support a product that helps people achieve sobriety, which is what we're all about at Dopey too. And sign up for their app so you can have your own Sober Buddy. Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. My name is Dave, and we are in Los Angeles in the Motel Sakura with Aurora.
Woo!
And Aurora just said I look high.
You look very high. You're glassy-eyed
You know,
and like giddy.
well, I'm not giddy. I'm tired. and glassy-eyed. I feel the glassy. You know, I don't know if you know this, but I haven't been to the doctor in like since I think it was like 6 years ago, and I think I got a bad appointment, and I called you right after the appointment, worried about my health. Do you remember that? I haven't been back since.
Do you go to the dentist?
Yes.
That's good.
But not the doctor.
You should go to the doctor.
And I feel like there's weird blotchy things in my vision.
You should have an eye exam. You should have a physical.
Yes, and the colonoscopy.
Oh,
Extra propofol, please. My plan.
I'm so scared of the colonoscopy. Aren't you scared?
Devin just had the colonoscopy.
What do you say about it?
He said it was like it never happened. They drank the propofol. He woke up in another room and he went home. That was it.
Thank God.
No muss, no fuss. I have another.
You know, I get such anxiety leading up to any kind of appointment like that, where it's a little bit scary. That I had one recently.
A colonoscopy?
No, I had an appointment like that a year ago, and like for the first time ever, usually my heart rate's like super low. Like they're like, "Are you alive?" Like my blood pressure is so low. I'm like, "Yeah, I just was stoned for a lot of years." But this time it was actually like off the charts because I was so anxious about this appointment.
See, I think in situations like that, like when I go to the dentist, I'm really nervous they're not going to give me nitrous or they're not going to give me this thing. And like then I'm anxious. Do I tell them that I need the thing? Like I have a friend who went and got the colonoscopy and they didn't give him the propofol. Isn't that crazy? I think they lubed up the camera and fucking went to town. But this morning I flew from.
Now you're supposed to have a colonoscopy early, right? People do not want to hear about this, FYI.
Why not?
I don't know.
I think the middle-aged contingency.
I think because your listeners are younger.
I think there's a spectrum. I think there's older listeners, there's younger listeners, and I think there's some right in the sweet spot of getting colonoscopies or recently having had colonoscopies.
So the question to the Dopey Nation then is: do you need it at 50 or do you need it at 45? Like
Devin said that it's 50, but they've just backed it up
to 45.
So like we're in the new sweet spot, which is in between 45 and 50. But what I was gonna say was that this morning.
I told Jeff, my boyfriend earlier, like, I see why you only want to live to like 85, 90. Because, like, I mean, already what's happening to the body, like, by the time we're that age, it's just like, forget it. You're just breaking down.
Well, I mean, we are biomechanical machines. You know what I mean? Like, and we get old. And until it's the future where they can harvest organs and set you up with a new colon or a new, elbow or whatever, it's dreary times, and death is attractive. I'm ready to go. I'm like Biggie Smalls. I'm fucking ready to die right now.
Ready to die.
But when I went to the airport this morning, I was really fearful of like the process. Like I was so anxious about like
the travel. Yeah,
the traveling.
That's normal.
But for nothing. Like I think it's the old fear of like getting busted at the airport, like that old fear. But then like. The real fear is like, what if my ticket isn't for today? What if the flight is in an hour and I didn't know? What if I missed it? What if they won't let me through? Like it's like, and I get so bent out of shape about it.
Yeah, traveling is very anxiety inducing.
And then like when I land and I look out, I landed in Burbank and I see, and I used to live, me and Todd and Jeremy lived right across like 3 blocks away from the Burbank airport in North Hollywood, across the street or something.
I just burped. Do you think the mic?
I burped at the same time and I couldn't hear either burp in the headphones. It was a silent burp. Aurora took me to this very fancy. It
wasn't fancy. It was very casual.
But it was fancy foodie kind of thing.
I guess so.
On the foodie meter, it was fancy.
Yeah.
What kind of was it? Thai?
Taiwanese.
So that's where what's Thai? Oh, from Taiwan.
Taiwan, yeah.
It was pretty good for the most part.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say this, that when I got off the plane, whenever I see, first of all, the mountains in California are very beautiful. But did you ever watch the show MASH?
Growing up, yeah.
So they used those mountains
Yeah.
for MASH. So when I first moved out here, I always thought about MASH. But now when I look at it, all I can think about is being dope sick and scoring and methadone and all. And it's like this misery that I experience when I get off the plane, misery and fear. And also the stress of driving.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff.
Do you know that I live just a few blocks from where Biggie Smalls was gunned down?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is there a
I
plaque?
didn't quite realize, like, until I watched, like, I mean, I knew he was killed in LA, but I didn't realize like what the corner was, what the cross streets were. And when I watched the Biggie Smalls doc, I was like, holy shit, that's right there.
Is there any kind of plaque?
I don't think so. It's right
Mural?
by
Nothing?
It's right by the Auto Museum.
So I'm out here on Dopey business. There's a lot of secret Dopey business. I'm going out to Oro Recovery tomorrow. I'm going to meet Mackenzie Phillips at her rehab tomorrow. That's cool. I'm going to meet the Sober Buddy people tomorrow. I'm like, and then there's secret stuff happening that I don't want to reveal yet. But it's very exciting to take a little trip. See you, Aurora.
I think it's good for you.
You do?
Yeah, I know.
Why?
I know it scares you, but I think it's a good experience for you.
I swear to God, I got to this hotel feeble like an old man, like scared of traffic, scared of checking in at the motel, scared like I'm not going to be able to figure out how to. They have a Roku TV. I'm scared I'm not going to be able to like sign in. I'm like fearful I'm not going to be able to watch Succession in my bed.
You
like,
may not.
I'm going to watch it on this. I'm going to watch it on my laptop. Isn't that sad?
No, we'll try to get it set up on your TV because that would be nice if you could lay in bed and watch it.
I know, but I also had all these people to see. I'm too tired to see them. How are you, Aurora? How's Los Angeles treating you? How's this visit treating you so far?
I'm delighted you're here. Really fucking happy. I'm glad you met my boyfriend.
Very nice. Very accommodating.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm between...
Very youthful. I look very old compared to him, and I'm only a year older.
No, you don't look old.
You think I'm still looking youthful?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I have an old face now.
No.
Yeah, I have an old face.
Oh, stop it.
I should have got Botox.
You know, I was going to say something that I can't say on the show.
What?
I'm not saying it. It would be very foolish of me to say what came into my mind. So, Dopey Nation, stand by.
Is it disparaging to me?
And stand down. No, it's just something I shouldn't say on the show.
By.
It says nothing.
Fuck you.
It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It's something I just shouldn't have thought of, shouldn't reveal. I shouldn't say it on the show. So that's two secrets.
Can you tell me offline?
Don't tempt the Dopey Nation with secrecy. Of course I can tell you offline.
Right.
I apologize, Dopey Nation. It's very rude.
How am I? I'm good. I mean, I'm a little between two worlds because I bought a home in another state.
Which is a big grown-up move.
Yeah, which is like I'm growing up.
And you've checked your recovery program at the door. Done.
Yeah.
Finito.
Not
using yet.
Not finito.
Let me ask you this.
Listen, I've been very frank about my journey this year.
But what does that mean?
I mean, I have shared open and honestly about like where I'm at.
So let's hear it. Where are you at?
I think I've shared it the last time I was on the program too. I am like adrift. I am that classic, like between 5 and 10 year person in recovery that you hear about that's like drifted away from the program. I'm like not going to any meetings. I'm not calling my sponsor. I'm not doing step work. I'm not checking in with people.
No sponsees. All your sponsees are like using.
All my sponsees are out.
Fucked up. Let me ask you this though. Okay.
But still sober.
Let me tell you a little story.
I pray a lot when I fly cross country.
That's when you pray. Please God, don't let this plane go down. No, so check it out. I went to the meeting yesterday, and like at the end of the meeting, I shared that I was fearful about coming to Los Angeles, right? Last time I was in Los Angeles, I was just smoking a ton of bud. You know, like I was smoking a ton of bud. Mm-hmm. I think I got a quarter as soon as I got here, and I stayed stoned the whole time. And the time before that, I came out to LA, and I don't know if I even told this story on Dopey before. That's interesting. I came out here to work on, before the last Jewish Waiter, I was working on this video project at Katz's that I wanted to call Behind the Counter. And the idea was it was like behind the music, but about Katz's. And we had all this footage, and I came here and to work with Brad on it. And Brad hired me to work on, he was working on a cable show called Lockdown about juvenile offenders who were in jail. And he said he wanted me to help him with that. And I don't think I did anything to help him. He helped me with this cut that we didn't do anything with. And I was smoking pot around the clock. And I had just started dating Linda. And I had decided that I was going to fly Linda out here. And I was going to take her on vacation to is Marina Del Rey here or is in Florida?
No, it's here.
To Marina Del Rey, I think. Okay, we were supposed to go to like wine
That is
country.
not a vacation spot.
I don't know where we went. We went to a vacation spot, but I don't remember where we went.
Okay.
Some like very beautiful place a little south of here or a little north of here. And it was beautiful, and I don't remember what the town was called.
Okay.
And it was like the first grown-up thing. I've never flown anybody anywhere. So I buy her a ticket. I buy us like a nice room in this nice swanky place because I was trying to impress her. And I was really nervous about it. And when I was with Brad in the house, I didn't rent a car because I'm a nervous wreck. Why would I rent a car? But when Linda came out, I needed to rent a car so we could drive to the resort. So I rent the car, and I wanted to see all the old haunts. So I went back to the house that I lived in Echo Park, and I drove to the parking lot. I just drove around Echo Park, and I saw one of the guys I used to get high with, I used to cop with, in a supermarket parking lot with like one of these chains of shopping carts. You know, these chains of shopping carts out here that these guys have. And I see the guy, and he's like, Dave. And I'm like, you, whatever, you know what I mean? I wound up buying, a bunch of dope off of him. And I went back to Brad's house, and I got high. And then I stayed high on heroin. Like I had the Afrin bottle, and I was squirting it up my nose, and nobody knew about it. I stayed high on the whole trip with Linda. She never knew about it. And I mean, she knew about it later. And then I flew home, and it was just like, it was such an easy relapse that nobody knew about. I didn't mention it to anybody. I think I told Todd about it, but like, I didn't mention it to anybody. There were no consequences. I did a bunch of dope out here.
Was this after your mom died too?
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I didn't start dating Linda until just
Right,
after
right.
my mother died.
Right.
But I came home, no muss, no fuss, no nothing. Like, it was like, if there was a perfect relapse, that was it. And like, so I have that in my head, not like I'm going to use, like I'm not going to fucking use. All I ever say to,
Is that the first time you relapsed on heroin after you'd come out of rehab? And
no,
Okay.
no, that was before I went to rehab. I went to rehab years later. I went to rehab after we had Nora. That was when we just started dating. That trip.
Because I thought when we reconnected in New York, your mom had recently died, and you'd also recently come out of another detox or rehab.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I was I didn't go to treatment then. The first real treatment I went to was in 2011, where I met Chris, and that was after Nora was born. I think I had been to maybe a detox then, possibly. I don't know. The point was that it was this perfect relapse, and that kind of shit can happen. And so that freaked me out about coming here, and I like confessed to the meeting, like, not that I am planning on getting high. Please, I'm not planning on getting high, but just like,
Do you still want to go to a meeting
yeah,
tonight?
no. But I mean, do you want to go to a meeting tonight? Now that I've said this, you're like, I better get Dave to a meeting. But the thing is, like, we were talking about reservations.
This is our meeting.
And my stoner reservations and shit. And I was thinking about what you said, when you're in that no man's land post 5 years and you're not going to meetings, but you're sober, it's like, that's when you are ripe for like somebody smoking a joint at a party. And you're like, well, I haven't, whatever. And like, that's where I think you're ripe. I'm working a crazy program. I'm fucking sharing before I fly. I'm like, we're having meetings out here. I'm going to two.
I know, we flip-flopped.
I'm going to 2 rehabs tomorrow as a visiting ambassador of sobriety.
That's awesome.
Isn't that weird?
That's great.
Bizarre.
I love it. I love to see it.
What's your fucking plan? I'm worried. You're gonna be, and I told you they're selling bud on Houston Street. What the fuck is that? What do you think about that, Aurora?
I mean, they sell bud everywhere around here, dispensaries.
I'm saying in New York City on Houston Street, you go out of Katz's and there's like a trailer where they would sell coffee and donuts, and they sell nuggets.
It's just like the donuts or the ice cream truck. Like
So you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make me wish that I could get high. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. It doesn't threaten my sobriety, I feel like.
I was walking I left Katz's and I'm walking up the street and they have the cart with the bud and they have like, you know, they're advertising Girl Scout cookies, OG Kush, Purple Haze, blah blah blah, and I see this dude and he's like, this bud is whack, and he's like all angry and he's pissed. I was like, dude, is the bud not good there? He goes, it's garbage. He goes, overpriced. Garbage. And I loved it. He was probably homeless or something, and the bud was really expensive, but it cracked me up. I was walking through Washington Square Park and kids are like setting up like, you know, like a lemonade stand, but it's just a table with huge joints on the table. And I'm like, how much is a joint? He's like, $10.
Wow.
So a huge joint in Washington Square Park right now is $10.
That's a deal.
It's not bad.
No.
It's probably like a half a gram. Something
That's
like
not
that.
bad.
It seems, you know,
It's
status
like
quo.
you can just it's that ease, right?
You just pick it up. Yeah. You're like,
to go.
you know, you're 6 years clean, haven't been to a meeting, something goes wrong, you know, or, you know, whatever. It's an interesting time to be alive. You know, it's a weird fucking time to be alive, but I feel good. I feel good to be on this trip.
I mean, it makes me worried about, like, I'm not worried for myself, but it's, you know, it's crazy to think about kids, teenagers, like my nieces and nephews. Like my 14-year-old niece is starting to get high, stoned. Like,
but you've had family younger than that doing worse than that.
I don't know, not really.
What about that kid?
Which kid?
Your godson.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I have.
So your niece is getting high.
14.
How old were you when you started getting high?
15.
And when did drugs become? See, you didn't have the kind of thing that I had, but you were out there. When did you start taking real drugs?
16 or 17.
Yeah, I don't worry about anything though. It's like 14 is too young. I don't think that the coffee cart but the dude in Washington Square Park is not going to be like, how old are you? He's going to, but nobody would have done that. That would, nobody cares how old a kid is when they sell them bud, right?
No. I mean, I just like, I don't want my 14-year-old nieces, nephews, you know, your daughter, like the thought of them getting high or doing drugs at that age is like terrifying.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like, I actually had, you know, our sponsor, like I'm going out to Oro, and I was like setting up the meeting with Evan, the guy who owns it. And he was like, there's a guy at Oro right now who is a Dopey listener. And he came because of the Dopey ad. And I was like, that's great. And he's like, the guy wants to leave. Can you talk to him? And I was like, sure, I'll talk to him, you know? And it turned out the guy didn't want to leave, but he was this very successful software engineer who, like, you know, he self-professed shot so much dope and coke that he can't find veins, and he has to like do all these different things to find veins, and that also he's like using quote unquote successfully, right? Meaning like he hasn't lost a job, he makes a shitload of money. And then I was like, well, why did you go there? And he was like, because I fell down a flight of stairs and broke my back and punctured my lung. And I was like,
not that successful.
Yeah, so I'm trying to like talk, and it's like, I don't know. It's like to try to talk somebody to wellness is like, it's like a joke. It's like, I couldn't even believe I'm on the phone trying to do it. I don't know how anybody does it.
No human power. Like, no.
Well, and here you are. So this is your meeting.
I guess so.
And what's up with your pops?
Oh, my dad? My dad has been, you know, I've been very torn up.
Before you explain just to anybody who doesn't remember the story of your father, explain your dad's story.
So my dad is was a child born out of wedlock in the 1940s who started running away at the age of 7. You know, thief, arsonist, general fuck up, and you know, has been a heroin addict, crackhead, alcoholic for his whole life. And you know, he's 75. You know, he's got major mental health issues and addiction problems, and so we've had a very spotty relationship. And he stopped drinking for a while, and our relationship became, I mean, throughout the years, you know, sometimes I'll talk to him. Sometimes, you know, I'll receive death threats from him. Sometimes he, you know, he doesn't speak to anyone in his family. You know,
you were his one lifeline to the world.
He doesn't have any.
And he was super grateful for you too.
Yeah, and when I got sober, we started having a lot more contact because he'd stopped drinking as much. And in the last, I'd say, year, 18 months, he's just become more and more erratic. You know, kind of slipping into the same old routine. Like little things will just send him over the edge where he ends up screaming, "Fuck you," and hanging up on me. We'll go months at a time without, you know, calling me or picking up phone calls. He's in some like delusion right now that the next door neighbors are trying to like poison him through the vents, and he's like trying to get a hold of the district attorney in the town. Like he's kind of.
What do you think he's just nuts, or do you think he's using anything?
I think he's drunk is what's happening. Is like I think that, you know, over the last year and a half, it's been very painful for me, and there's been a lot of times where I'm like, how could I have handled situations differently with him? But you know, I talked to him a couple months ago, and he's like slurring, and I'm like, of course, he's fucking drunk. He's drunk again, and that is why, you know, he can't speak to me, and that's why we can't have a relationship, because he's out of his mind.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
You're going to go home for Christmas, though.
Yeah, he actually, so 3 weeks ago, we spoke on the phone, and it was like after he hadn't picked up my calls for 3 months. And then
for 3 months.
For 3 months. And then we spoke 3 weeks ago, and within 2 days, he'd called me like 40 times. He needs help emailing the district attorney. I'm like, you know, no, Dad, I can't really, I'll try to help you email, but I'm not emailing the district attorney. And it, you know.
He got pissed.
Oh, yeah. Like, fuck you. You're fucking dead to me. You're a fucking bitch. Don't ever call me.
All the money I've hidden is not hidden in the same spot.
Yeah. Then he called me this morning. Oh, Aurora, I'm trying to unblock you. I'm trying to figure out how to unblock your number. So he called me from some other phone, and you know, I'm going to be in town at Christmas, and he does want to see me.
Well, I'm excited to hear the next story of your father.
But it's like I got to remember he's an untreated alcoholic.
Right, and it's not like he's about to get fucking treatment.
No. He's very sick, and he's got, you know, whatever mental health, OCD, and whatever mental health issues and addiction issues, like. Yeah.
Well, if he wants a scholarship, you could reach out. And if anyone in the Dopey Nation wants a scholarship, you should reach out and fucking leave a good review and all that stuff. But we were fortunate enough to have a guest besides my great friend Aurora, which is The Hills, the reality TV star from The Hills in Laguna Beach, Jason Wahler. And let's listen to Mr. Wahler's tale of highs, lows, woes, and recovery. Shall we?
Let's do it.
But before we get to the great Jason Wahler, I just want to say that this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. And you can check out BetterHelp.com/dopeypodcast because life is full of stressors. It doesn't matter who you are or what you have. Your life is probably stressful. Lord knows mine is. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. See if it's for you. And this episode of Dopey is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Dopey listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/dopeypodcast. That's BetterHelp.com/dopeypodcast. All right, here we go. Jason Wahler. You're a current TV star. We never get current TV stars.
Well, I appreciate you having me, man. I'm looking forward to doing the show.
And if you didn't know from his voice, you are a reality show legend, starting in The Hills, Laguna Beach, and now on The Hills, new beginning, an athlete and guru of recovery, Jason Wahler. Welcome to Dopey.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Is it fucking weird to get high and drunk in reality television and then to get sober in reality television? How difficult is that?
Oh my God, that is a fully loaded question. I mean, at first it was amazing to get high and drunk on, national television, but when it becomes to the point where every time you start to drink, man, it's starting to cost you $10,000 because of legal fees and being arrested, it no longer becomes fun. But transitioning and going into reality television sober, it was a trip because it was like when I went back and I hadn't seen some of the casts for many years, it was like me meeting them for the first time again, just because I had a totally different perception on not only who they were but myself in general. So it was a trip, and it was it's crazy looking back, and it's actually kind of alarming to see some of the stuff that I had done in my earlier days.
I watched a little bit. I watched a little bit of the new show, and I watched a little bit of the old show, and it like, I've never been that much of a reality TV person. Not that I think there's anything wrong with it. It reminded me a little bit of wrestling. I
get it. I get it. Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot of talking shit, right?
Yeah, I mean it's trust me, it wasn't something I'd grown up and was like, I can't wait to be on reality television. I mean, for me, it was kind of placed in front of me, and it was something that I was like, why not? At the end of the day, with this, this is kind of a one-off thing. It'll be cool to have my senior year documented on television, and that way I can look back and just have this piece of history. But little did I know it was going to turn into the phenomenon that it did, and the domino effect of success that it had.
I think it's awesome. I also think it's awesome to go on sober now and be a sort of public advocate of sobriety, even though that's probably a heavy duty responsibility. But when you went on, was the Hills or Laguna Beach first? It was the Hills first.
Laguna Beach was. Laguna Beach was.
Forgive me. Forgive me. Now I want to kill myself that I had a 50% chance of getting it right, and of course I got it wrong. But how hardcore were you drinking and using prior to getting on the show?
Oh God! I mean, prior to getting on the show, I'd probably say it was the beginning stages of my addiction. I mean, I was probably drinking, I don't know. I mean, probably 12-pack, every Friday, Saturday.
Right.
And then when it, that definitely escalated and got much quicker. I'd say, probably 6 months down the road and in the middle of filming, I was doing beer bongs full of vodka. So it definitely dominoed and it spiraled.
You had the ism before you were famous.
Oh, dude, I had it way before. I actually done some, deep diving and looking back to when I was a kid, and I can see, way before I ever picked up a drink or a drug, I definitely had, the ism for sure. I mean, I can even look back when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I would go and cut my neighbor's roses and go and sell them to her. I could see some of the little, manipulative, lying, conniving type of shit that I would do. That took me on this spell. But, at 12, 13 years old, I could really identify just the shame, the self-hatred, the depression, the anxiety, OCD. I had a lot of these underlying issues that I never addressed, or, I actually, let me take that back, is because my parents knew something was up, so I went to therapy, but I was never in a place or, was willing to get completely honest with what was going on, because mental health and addiction was so new back then, right? And so I wanted to kind of play the surface level game and let them know that, I have a couple issues, but it's definitely not as deep as you think. Even though, during when I was 12 years old, I had OCD so bad I used to wash my hands until they would bleed. I mean, there was some really deep underlying shit that I did not know how to disclose to other people without them being super judgmental or biased.
I'm really curious about that because I don't know anything about OCD except for like what I've heard on the Howard Stern show or Joey Ramone stuff. Like,
right.
When do you realize you have it, and like what is washing your hand till it bleeds really about?
So great question. And so I don't know I haven't been able to identify the exact core root cause. And I mean, I've done a ton of therapy and a ton of different stuff around OCD, and I've been on medication now for almost 20 plus years. You know, I'm very open about when I take a low dose of Lexapro, and it definitely helped mitigate that. But I got very, very concerned around diseases. I don't know if that was after like sexual education class or whatever it was, but around, you know, 6th, 7th grade, you know, the OCD, the obsessive compulsive disorder, I was just afraid of germs. And so, I mean, I would compulsively wash my hands, and it was, you know, my brain wouldn't register. It was so bizarre, you know, washing your hands, even though you just did it, you know, you
Right.
saw that. I mean, I'd go to the lengths of, it's like when people, I didn't have the thing with like opening or closing doors or the lines, but like I would look in the sink to make sure I saw bubbles, or, you know, I'd look at my hands. Like it was this, it was so bizarre because you couldn't convince yourself that you had done it correctly. And you would have to do it again until it was perfect, and then you'd be able to go on your way. And mine was so severe, it was debilitating. I mean, my parents knew. I mean, I had to wear gloves, like literally neoprene gloves full of Neosporin, because I would literally make a fist and my knuckles would burst, like would open up and
Oh my
start
God.
bleeding.
That's terrible.
So,
but you were also
yeah,
you were also like a young popular athlete guy. How do those things go together? Like, how do you be like such a successful baseball player with this crazy fear of dirt and germs?
Well, great question again, man.
By the way, I love it when you tell me the questions are good. So if you think it's a good question, tell me, because it really goes right to my head. I like that.
No, fuck, it's money. It's money, man. Well, because that's the thing is that at 12, 13 years old, I was having to live a double life already, right? I was trying to pretend that I didn't have or struggle with this stuff. Only the people that knew were the people at my house, being my parents, my siblings. And outside of that, I had to try to, you know, manage, or so what I thought manage, you know, perception of what people thought of me. You know, I mean, I think every single person wants to be liked, loved, and, you know, admired. And, you know, I don't want to be known as this person's got a fucking a hand washing disorder.
Right, this
or
weirdo.
whatever.
This weirdo needs to wash his
so-
hands all day. Yeah, I got you.
And I think that was accompanied, you know, by, you know, making sure, and I think that's kind of what sped up over the course of time of leading into the addiction stuff, is because, you know, I'd be fast forwarding until, because that happened when I was 12, 13 years old. And then, you know, my addiction, I think my first drink was right around like 15 or 16. I can't remember exactly, but I think that's when like I got that relief, you know, because those symptoms and stuff went away. Obviously, I mean, the medication that I took would help with that as well. But I was able to distract myself from, you know, the OCD stuff with other things. And then when I found alcohol, you know, it took it away completely. So it was a messy cycle.
Totally. And that must have been, so when did they started you on, did you say Lexapro or Wellbutrin?
No, so I started actually my first medication was Effexor, XR, which that was a very, I mean, for people out there, I mean, especially mixing SSRIs, antidepressants with alcohol, I mean, I'd go into rages when I was, you know, 17, 18 years old and I was on Effexor. You know, you definitely, I don't think you should be drinking anyways when you're on an antidepressant or an SSRI, because you actually mitigate the effects of it. And it actually can have counter effects, which it did for me. And I would go into, I mean, completely blackout drunken rages and just become fucking violent. And so again, I'm not sure, I switched medications, you know, years later. And again, as I've not drank on this new medication that I've been on, you know, definitely not like I used to. You know, I did have a relapse. So I want to be very transparent. You know, I relapsed a few years ago, and I was on Lexapro, but I didn't have the same outburst like I did on Effexor. But Effexor was a gnarly combination with alcohol.
Right. And in that period of time where you're kind of like getting your alcoholic legs, your addict legs, like, when did you start noticing that maybe you drank not like the friends around you and the kids in high school? Or were there a bunch of alcoholics budding in Laguna Beach?
See, man, yeah, exactly. I mean, I knew I was known as kind of like the partier, and I kind of liked that, right? So I had to even, I always say, you know, I had an overinflated ego with an underestimated sense of self-worth. So if I could find validation in those outer areas, I would definitely take them. and definitely people that drink and use like me. You know, and I think it got progressively worse when I moved from Laguna Beach to LA. You know, when you get out of your parents' house and you got the
Freedom.
financial restraint of parents and stuff like that. So when I really experienced the freedom is when it got way worse. But it was really hard. Look, I mean, again, we have to remember we're not in the time that we're in now. When we look back when I was 20, that was nearly 15 years ago. We didn't have the knowledge or the resources or the education that we do today around substance abuse or mental health. And, you know, there was still so much stigma associated with it. And, you know, I know a lot of people got sober back then too, and I'm not discrediting that, but it was also very hard for me to be like at 20 years old. And again, some of that is just, you know, being naive. Also, you're super impulsive at 18, 19, 20 years old. You know, so it was kind of hard to, even though I was getting arrested and shit was happening, I was like, this is just kind of part of the motion. You know what I mean? And I'd say, you know, inside I knew there was there was something much deeper. So I'd say in my mid 20s, but it was hard to admit that I struggled with alcohol at such a young age, because there was some fun times, you know, partying and stuff like that. My addiction, I summarize it like this, is drinking and using was fun. It became a lifestyle, and it became a way of survival.
No, I get it. I mean,
you know,
I had fun. I had fun abusing heroin until it stopped being fun. You know, I had a great time.
Right.
Of course.
Right. I think it was holding on to those times. You know, I mean, I think it was really kind of holding on to, there was really good times, you know, but then it got to the point where it was really that survival stage, and it's like, yeah, now I'm drinking, man. And it's like every single time, you know, like I said earlier in the conversation, is, I mean, dude, it was like 9 out of 10 times, you know, I was getting in trouble. And that, and this, you know, just the damage and the harm I was causing to my friends and my family and the close people around me, and you know, this ruining relationships, and it became very, very apparent. But I mean, my disease took me to the bottom, man, and it took you know, not only the contemplation of suicidal ideations, but actually attempting suicide. And you know, when I transformed my life and initially got sober, dude, it wasn't even for myself. You know, part of my story was it wasn't for me, because after you try taking your life and there's nothing that you want to live for anymore, when you think that you have everything that society says is amazing, being money, access, cars, girls,
Fame, whatever.
Be,
Yeah.
whatever, and you're still at this point of just like, I fucking hate life. You know, there was no motivation for me, but my family dynamic and my parents specifically, who I'm very close with, were that turning point for me. They, you know, they're a huge part of my story. But that was my moment of clarity, was actually motivation for my family, until I could actually get some clarity, you know, in my early 20s.
Right. When you're on this reality TV world, and you're like a famous person for being this like rambunctious drinker, partier guy, so you're being rewarded for it. I had a similar experience happen to me, just not nearly on the scale of yours. You know what I mean? And I knew what it was like. I got a job working in television, right? And the guy was like, just so you know, no matter how much drugs you've done, I've done more. And I was like, okay. And I became like their pet who could use, and like they would like it when I used, and it was fun. And I think that's kind of what happened with you, that they wanted to see you fucked up, right? To some extent.
It created 100%. It created a character, man, and I had to live up to that character.
And describe what that felt like when fame arrived and you are in active addiction, alcoholism, whatever you want to call it. Like, describe that, because I think it's a very exciting. I mean, it's very dangerous, and thank God you lived, you know, and your story is obviously fraught with pain and shit. But talk about what it was like at first, like when it was exciting and crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, at first it was incredible. You know what I mean? And it's like overnight, instant access. You know, I mean, the recognition, like I said, I think everybody wants to be wanted and loved, right? And so all those needs were met instantly overnight. And then you accompany that with, you know, the money and the partying, and it was literally, I thought I was living the dream. You know, I always say, you know, at 18, 19 years old, you know, most of your friends are looking for fake IDs, and I'm being paid to travel the world and party. And so it was it was so surreal, and there wasn't like, nobody could really relate to it. You know, the highs were so high, and the lows were so low. But again, that first year of when it happened, it was incredible. You know, I mean, I'll never forget, like, you know, getting out of high school and then going up to LA. I mean, we lived, you know, in Laguna Beach. We didn't grow up in like some big city or things like that. And so, I mean, I'll never forget, like, when Talon and I went and met Frankie, who's also on the show, you know, and we were, you know, 18 years old going into these clubs. It was just like you know, we're used to going to like house parties in high school. And, you know, now you're going up to, you know, you're going up to Sunset, you're going off of Fairfax. I mean, you're going to all these different clubs and stuff. And it was just such a crazy experience that, I mean, it's hard to put into words.
It's the
you know
total,
I mean?
it's the total I have arrived, right? You have arrived at that point.
I mean, yes. And that's what it was without even knowing it. Cause like I said, it all happened like overnight. I mean, I'll never forget the moment that I woke up after the first commercial came out. Literally the first commercial, not even the first like episode. And I went down to the gas station and my car was mobbed. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, just people, can we get a picture? Can we, you know, it was just like, it was so weird. And then, you know, just like you start going out to dinners and people are starting to, you know, just people following you. It was just it was so crazy. I mean, it's a totally different environment now than what it was in 2005, 2006. I mean, you didn't have the Netflix, you didn't have the YouTube, you didn't have really, I mean, Facebook was around, but you didn't really have social media. It was more like MySpace. You know what I mean? It was just a different environment that we lived in. Everybody had cable television.
Totally. Was the fame more intoxicating or scary?
Oh, intoxicating.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. I think I would love that. I'd get a kick out of it.
We did, but it also, the thing I think is the scariest part is it drives you away so far from who you really are. For me, it did. Is I totally lost sight of who I was, what I liked, my morals, my values. And again, I mean, that's just me in poor management. But again, is also,
you're a kid, though. You're a total kid.
19 years old. I mean, we're super fun. That's the time males are the most impulsive. I mean, I think everybody, but specifically males are the most impulsive people at that age.
Right.
So, I mean, it was like super hard to try to contain anything. I mean, you just were, I mean, your hormones are gone. I mean, you're living life and everything all at once. It was like a tidal wave. Everything, the access became, it wasn't like slowly, you know, doors open, and it was just an instant. And like, that's, I mean, I remember going to the VMAs when we were 17, 18 years old and flying to Miami, and just, you know, all of a sudden you're around this lifestyle and this entertainment, and, you know, you're going to these parties and you're with all these different celebrities, and you're just like, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean? It was so surreal. It was the craziest experience, you know. And it's funny because nobody's really asked me questions like this in a long time. I mean, not like in the depths of this. People have asked kind of just like the overarching umbrella of what it was like, but really looking back, I mean, I'm getting flashbacks of all these times of just, you know, of all this stuff that we experienced, and I honestly haven't thought about it in a very long time.
Well, it's exciting. It's exciting as hell, like, to go to the Video Music Awards at that age as stars. Like, who were some of the performers there?
Oh, I mean, I was probably blacked out by the time that happened. I remember just being at like Puff Daddy's house, and I mean, it was just like I mean, Little John. All the people
right.
we were connected to and associated with. It was just like you said, you've arrived, and it was from going from a little surf quiet town in Laguna Beach to, you know, mainstream media. And the show, like I said, the show was a cult phenomenon. I mean, it literally transformed reality television. I mean, that's what, you know, you look at Laguna, the only other show that was out at that time, I believe, was like The Real World. And I think that's when the Osbournes kind of had their show starting to go. And
right.
There was a couple that were starting to go at that time, but it was really a part of that like real docu-series television series that, you know, it's like what we see today with the Real Housewives, Jersey Shore, and, you know, a lot of the different shows of Siesta Keys, and, you know, a lot of the stuff that you see today is piggybacked off of how they shot it.
100%. And I have a couple more questions about that period. The first one, it's like, once you're fucked up on camera, is it hard to be sober on camera?
I mean, to answer the first question, is it hard to be fucked up on camera? No. because you don't even know what's going on.
Right.
And
I'm sure it eases anxiety. You know, I'm sure getting fucked up, you feel bulletproof on camera, and you can be like larger than life and all that shit.
100%. It does, and I will say, yeah. It's easy being fucked up on camera. I mean, obviously, it sucks when you do something stupid, and then you have to witness and see it. So I mean, I think that pain is not worth that risk up front. But on the other end, it's incredible to see and watch the environment from a sober perspective, and to people watch how people change. I mean, it just being on it sober was such a different experience, and it was such an eye-opening experience, because I saw a lot of things. I was able to be in tune with myself. I was very hyper aware of everything that was going on, things that made me uncomfortable, things I wanted to engage in, things I didn't want to engage in. And you're sticking to your roots of what you believe. But I think it's crazy because, I look back, and I think it's rad how I've had this opportunity to be this, and this part's not rad, but to be that drunk, womanizing alcoholic, and then to have the opportunity to be able to come back and be this, this guy that's sober, who's married, who's got a family, and to give hope to those that are out there, because my addiction was very public.
That's the thing, right? It's like all of us who have gone into recovery have had those nights and those minutes, but we're not on reality TV shows. So like, you carried the message in your worst moments.
Oh no. Well, that's what I'm saying. Thanks to TMZ and all the, the weekly magazines and all that stuff. I mean, that caused that shame and that guilt. Again, it's on me, right? I take full ownership in that, but it didn't help, going checking out the grocery store and seeing your picture arrested again. And, just all these different things. You couldn't get away from it. You know what I mean? And just, again, as the disease got worse, I mean, media became more prevalent, and, filming on your phones. And I mean, there was a lot of situations that were very embarrassing, and very, very, challenging to go through and process, and that's the insanity of it. That caused me to drink more.
Give us a low light of that period?
A low light,
like a highlight, low light of like a really bad one.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, I mean, I think the where I saw myself and I visualized this it was towards the end of my drinking and using is. I mean, I would always have parties at my house towards the end, and, you'd have all these people over, and, I remember doing those in the beginning, and you'd be social and hang out with everybody. But it was literally like out of a movie or a book, dude. I would have all these people over, and I'd just be in my bedroom or in my bathroom by myself, snorting lines and just pounding vodka, just having this miserable existence,
Totally.
And just wanting to check out so bad. Trying to chase that high that was there from years ago that never was coming back. And that's where, I mean, like the lows, dude, I mean, there's so many lows. It was funny. My aunt and uncle bought a house in Laguna right on the water over a cliff. There's this place called Heisler Park. And after they got it, it's weird, going over there and walking out on their balcony, because their view literally is to where I had I think it was 3 or 4 helicopters looking for me out in the water, because I was just so fucked up, and I was just kind of over it. And I'll never forget, I swam out. I just kept swimming, and the helicopters had to come and pull me out, and fucking the police. It was just like there's so many of those moments. I mean, there were so many lows. But it's just crazy how I can take those lows, and understand that all great change proceeds through chaos. And I can look at these moments, an opportunity to make an impact, make a change and to look back. But there are some pretty shitty moments. But I think it's what it really comes down to is that being completely isolated from a person that really loves life, loves people, loves being outdoors, loves, sports, loves surfing, skating, snowboarding. Just a person that likes being active, to being cooped up and having everything robbed from me, and just in complete bondage to the disease of cocaine and alcohol, is a miserable existence.
When did the drugs come on the kind of career life? Like, were you doing coke before the TV shows, or did it come with the TV shows?
No, it came like right. It came like right when we started filming. You know, I'd say like when we were like 18. I think in high school, definitely in high school we started doing it. And then of course, I mean, it was like we would hit the slopes, bro. You'd have to go get your goggles and your ski poles.
Right.
I'm 19.
Right.
You know, and the rest was history.
Was everyone sniffing coke? Were you ever shooting it or smoking it, or was it just you?
No, everybody was snorting it, bro. It was, I mean, it got to the point where you just wear the bullet around your neck, you know what I mean? And just, you know, I for years, I would just have it with me all the time. I mean, I'd have candy dishes full of it with little booger sugar spoons. And, but everybody was doing it at that time. I mean, I probably did it. I probably definitely didn't do it recreational like some of them, but, I mean, I was, you know, I'd be up for days. And that was the other thing too. I mean, the coke come down, I was so sensitive to it.
Yeah, it's horrible. Were you doing pills or anything?
I didn't like opiates. If you met me in person, dude, I'm high energy. I don't like being, even though alcohol is a depressant, I understand that, but I never liked opiates.
What about benzos for the fucking edge at the end of the coke night, the landing gear?
Dude, I was always afraid of a heart attack, so I always thought it would be better to drink a fifth of vodka.
Right.
You know?
Okay. I mean, I talked to so many drug addicts at this point to kind of figure out like what their combination was. And the coke and booze is a classic combination, you know?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I thought, you know, I was so smart. I mean, at least back then I was like, yeah, I'm not going to take benzos. You know, I might have a heart attack, but drinking a fifth, it's got to be better.
Right. That's got to be better. That's got to be better for something.
Yeah. But, you know, that was kind of the combination. I mean, I incorporated, I didn't really, and I also, dude, I remember smoking weed for the first time when I was like, whenever I want to say like, I'd say I said 15, 16. I probably started, you know, tried using like 14, 15. That's where I'd kind of land on. And I smoked weed for the first time at my friend's house, and I had the worst experience in my life, dude. We were down at Thalia, smoked, and I just fucking had like this paranoia attack, and I just started running, dude, like Forrest Gump, all the way back to Emerald Bay. I ran like 3 or 4 miles and fucking told on myself. I was like, I smoked something fucking weird, and I think the cops are after me. And I never liked weed. I never really got into the marijuana thing. I mean, if I was really fucked up, I'd smoke it, but it was really alcohol and cocaine. And then later down the road, it became
Adderall, right?
synthetic. Yeah, pharmaceutical synthetic grade meth. Good old Adderall.
Well, I'm excited to get to the Adderall, but first, I want to find out the bottom. Like, was it the suicide attempt at the end of this that brought you to the first recovery?
You know, so I mean, that was a part of the thing, and I was telling you kind of my parents. You know, they were such an instrumental part of my life, and after the suicide, you know, after some stuff had happened, I actually was doing okay. You know, for a couple months, and you know, I was on and off, and then I ended up getting a DUI, which again is more than enough. That's all I have. But I remember back in the days, everybody thought I had like 50 DUIs and stuff like that, but just for the record, it was one, which was enough, and I was parked in a red zone arguing with a girlfriend, and that's how I got my Dewey. But it was that had happened. You know, things were going decent. That had happened, and I just couldn't get into this. I was just in this place of just like this miserable existence, right? And it'd been there for a while, but I remember going back to a therapy session with my parents, you know, for the 100th time probably at this point, and you know, I was sitting there and looking across, and I'd never seen my dad break down before in his life, besides when his mom had passed away, and he's like the patriarch in our family, just a really solid backbone to the whole family. And you know, he just looked over at me and he just said, you know, as we were halfway in the session, and you know, this came up, and he's just like, look, Jason, you know, we don't know what to do anymore. You know, our marriage is suffering. You know, everything is falling apart. And you know, your mom and I are like 2 planks of wood laying in bed waiting for the phone call that you're dead. And I don't know why. I mean, trust me, those conversations had happened before, but I don't know if it was because I had some clarity, but it was literally like a light came on. And that was the motivating factor and the turning point for me, to really, you know, like, hey, look, I don't care enough about myself, but I'm in a place where, you know, they caught me at the right time. You can call it whatever you want. God shot, whatever it may be. And I said, look, don't care enough about myself, but I care enough about them. And I'm willing to try this one last time. And that's when I went off to treatment in Florida. Was out there for some time.
Where'd you go?
It was called the Treatment Center in Florida. I don't even know if it's around anymore or not. But that was back in 2000. It was July 23rd, 2010.
Okay.
And went out there, and then I actually was sober for about 45 days, close to, and then I came back, and then I entered into celebrity rehab, and I went into celebrity rehab sober. And people are like, why would you do that? And, you know, you're going back for, you know, people are on there for all sorts of reasons, whether they're doing it for the money, the 15 minutes, whatever it may be. And I really went back to change the public's negative perception of how I was perceived through all the negativity. And there was just so much negative press out there. And it was like, so I went there and not only, you know, was I able to, I was like a background prop, you know, I just got to watch all the chaos that was going on. And, you know, I was on there with Janice Dickinson, Lake Garrett, you know, Jason Davis, unfortunately, who's no longer with us. And, you know, just.
Wait, who is that guy? Jason Davis. What was his deal?
Jason Davis. He was Marvin Davis's grandson. He was also, I don't know if you remember the show Recess, the cartoon. He was Mikey. He was also, Chris Farley's, when they would go back in time on like Beverly Hills Ninja and stuff. He was the kid on there. His family owned Fox.
Okay. I remember. Okay.
His brother was Brandon, the one that would call Lindsay Lohan Firecrotch with Paris.
Right. No, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember
that whole crew. But yeah, and ended up, you know, I ended up connecting really closely with Dr. Drew and Bob Forrest. And after I came out of there, dude, I went back to Orange County and removed myself from LA, and that's where my real journey into recovery started.
Let me ask you something, because I'm pretty tight with Bob and I've had Drew on the show a bunch of times, and I love those guys. Do you think, though, and like separating those guys from the show itself, do you think something like celebrity rehab is potentially harmful? Because you're working in recovery all over the place. Like with retrospect, do you think it's potentially harmful? Because so many people talk shit about celebrity rehab now, like what a not compassionate thing. It's not right for people to get sober in the public eye. It's for a TV show. Like, do you have any opinions like that?
Look, I think if you're in, I think I could see both sides, right? And I think there's a great opportunity to raise awareness and education, and enough is not being done around addiction. We got the leading cause of death in America for 50-year-old individuals and younger. And nothing's tend to change. You look at the statistics of the deaths over the last 15 years, it's only been a stair step up. There's been no decrease, and it's something that we're really battling against. I think there's TV proponents to it that can be very subjective and can be very negative. But I think if you have a very well-informed doctor and clinicians and, you know, therapists and different things like that, like for me, I think intervention glorifies so much on the negativity, you know, and doesn't show any solution. I think for those shows, it'd be awesome for more people to show not 80 to 90% of the show focusing on the negativity, but showing the reality of the disease. After you know, it's once you actually arrest the disease and you get stabilized, that's one piece of it. But the rubber doesn't hit the road until you actually get out of the container. And I think that's where it's informative.
Wait, hold up. What container? I like this. Rubber hitting the road. What container? What are we saying here? I'm with you.
It's like residential treatment. When you're in a confined environment, being like a residential treatment, it's not hard to stay sober in there.
Right.
That's the easy part. But when you come out of it, like come out of a treatment center, or when you come out of specifically a 30 days of treatment, that's when the rubber hits the road.
Right.
When you're going out to your natural stressors, being life, you know, how do you bring that back into a controlled environment and process how you move forward? And I think that's where that's where I think a real TV show can be created. And actually, Dr. Drew and I have talked about this on numerous occasions of how, you know, I think there's the TV elements, again, as I can see how people can be very frustrated and angry around, you know, taking advantage of recognizable people. And,
well, it's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Like
it is. But but on the other end, look at me. They're a huge part of why I'm sober today.
Right. But you had the luxury of going in there sober. Like, of having the pre-treatment was probably great for you.
It was, but still, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going back into that environment, and that environment's still going to be, I mean, you're not detoxing and stuff like that.
No, I get it, dude. When I love that show. I loved getting high and watching that show. Like I loved it. I fucking loved it. And I've had a bunch of people from Celebrity Rehab on Dopey, and I don't necessarily have an opinion one way or another, because I think, like what you said before, like there is no telling the reason somebody gets it or somebody doesn't. I understand both sides of the coin. I want Dopey to be a big recovery TV show. That's what I'm going for. Killing myself over here.
No, I think the whole thing for me, and to summarize that, is I think the the more education and the more information that we can provide from very credible people is important. And again, I don't think that at the expense of people struggling and things like that. I think there's a way to give a full picture,
right,
where you can show if the person doesn't sustain or maintain sobriety, you can have really informative education explaining what's going on and what's happening
without objectifying them or putting them in a bad situation.
Correct.
Right. I got you. I support that. And so that was like the jump off into a bunch of sober time for you, though, right?
Yeah, I ended up requiring about 5 years of sobriety.
And you wound up working in the field.
Yeah. So I ended up, so after I left Celebrity Rehab, that's where I really was in a place of surrender and willingness. And I got connected with Mike Netherton, who was the president of Betty Ford for 25 years. He was the right-hand man to Betty. And I also worked very closely with Paul Alexander, and I got taken under their wing with about 90 days of sobriety at Northbound Treatment Services. That was like my first real job, which I actually say was one of the biggest saving graces, to actually find something that I was able to latch onto and have, purpose, a passion and motivation, and really to have some form of accountability, and to be in that spot and worked in the field for a long time, still do to this day. But I mean, that whole process was incredible. I was a recovery advocate, which helped, people coming into detox get acclimated and acquainted. And, when they saw me, they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? And, we'd talk shop and develop that whole program. Our ACAs went down about 80%, which is, people leaving against clinical advice.
Right.
And, it was creating this, this good cop mentality versus bad cop, where the clinicians, were the ones that were kind of more the enforcers, where if there was an issue, I would be able to be sent in, because I had that firsthand camaraderie experience with them in the beginning, whether they needed, coffee, cigarettes, or just kind of that good cop mentality. And ended up developing a whole team into that. And we came up with a whole activities program. We came up with like 100 and some odd activities within the 30-mile radius, because we were dealing with a lot of younger adults in recovery. And it's really important to show that you can really embrace and enjoy life, and that your brain produces more potent chemicals than heroin. You just got to let it work. And so, we had this whole activities program and client services program, and then we took over the alumni, and went over and took over marketing, and things got really, really good, man. And I actually ended up leaving them after, 3.5, 4 years, and went and started working on another program. And, a lot of that container for me, or that structure, was taken away because it was a program that was out of state, and accompanied with other stuff. But life had gotten so good that I had started to lose sight and lose track of all the things that I was doing that got me there. And I got complacent. And, I went back to my own devices, which I thought would be, I thought I could handle this. And, I didn't need to keep going to meetings. I didn't need to connect with my mentors or my sponsors, or stay active and stuff. And, got sucked up into the worldly things, if you will, just whether it was with my wife, and just getting a house, and just kind of that. But then there was also the distractions of this, success. And, that ended up taking me down a deep, dark rabbit hole. And I ended up, going to see a psychiatrist, and instead of doing the other things that I know I should have done. And he knew my history for a long time. And, with no intention, honest to God, of not wanting to abuse drugs, I went and I knew I'd struggled with, when I had OCD, I had ADHD, and I was actually prescribed Adderall when I was really young. I hated it. And, I was taking his advice, and when I got prescribed Adderall, within 3 to 4 months, I got prescription dyslexia, and instead of taking one every day, or one every few hours, I took 5 every 1 hour, and it just dominoed, and I was up to was taking like almost 300 or 400 milligrams a day.
How is it? I mean, like, I consider going to a psychiatrist and getting on Adderall all the time. Like, that's my new thing in my mind, that if I had Adderall, I could be incredibly organized and way more productive. And so tell me, what brought you to the psychiatrist in the first place?
Just because my life there was so much going on, and just wanting to be able to, I just couldn't cope or deal with the stressors of life that were happening. Like, things got almost too good where they were overbearing, and I was burning the candle from both ends.
So what made you, were you like Adderall was like limitless in your head, and if you had Adderall, you'd be able to handle everything? Like, what was it?
No, it was, well, you have to understand, as I went, like, it was more of, I went in there and really was seeking guidance and direction, and I took the prescription as prescribed, and it seemed like things were going better. And I was like, well, man, if I took one of these, you know, and I was able to get this much done, well, I bet you, let's see what I can do if I take 2 or 3. And then that's when the cycle just started to happen, and it totally got reversed, and it became more of, it was just like alcohol.
What was it like, the Adderall itself?
It's a stimulant. I mean, it's like cocaine. I mean, for me, when you take enough of it, it's the same effects of I mean, it's literally pharmaceutical synthetic grade meth. I mean, it's perfectly created in a lab. It's a high, like, you know, if you take enough of it, you get the high of like a methamphetamine.
Right. I've done a bunch of meth. I think I did an Adderall or 2 back in the day. For you, when you're taking it,
I mean, it's not as like, I mean, I've talked to people that I've actually not done meth, so I can't compare the two.
Sure.
It's not the same. I mean, my understanding is the meth high is obviously more intense, but I mean, you're in the same playing field as that if you take enough of it.
Right. I want to know this. The difference between taking it as prescribed, like, what did it do for you when you took it as prescribed?
It helped me focus. You know what I mean? It helped me stay on track. It would help me stay on task. It would, I mean, just having a lot of rushing thoughts would kind of slow my thinking down. And it would allow me to instead of procrastinating stuff, I was able to get what was in front of me done. But there was also the other side of it, though, whereas there was this effect that it would have, whereas I was effective in that and I'd get stuff done, but there was also this like monster on the other side. Like it was also like, you need more of this.
Right.
So it's hard to explain, where it's like I was effective in doing what I needed to do. And then there was this other side, was like, you know, take more, and almost like the thought process and the focus became more on just taking more, just like it does with like it was with my alcohol addiction.
Totally. Do you think that if you had been going to meetings while you had in that situation, it wouldn't have like gone off the deep end, and you could have taken it as prescribed?
No, I mean, because now, like, I mean, I was so on and off with that stuff for a couple of years. I mean, it was the biggest battle that I've ever had. That even when I would just take one and I was, you know, trying to go back to meetings and I was staying connected and stuff like that, it was the same effect. Like, as we talked about, when my alcohol use in the beginning was fun, it became to that survival component.
Totally.
It was the same. I would take one, it would affect my receptors. You know, it didn't even have the effect of like making me focus. It just went straight into, let's go deeper, you know, and let's take a bunch more. It was just more of like an instant, you know, you need more of this. And these are great questions. It's hard to.
No, I get it.
Looked at it.
I
you know what I mean? It's like it's a deep way to look at it.
I appreciate it. I hate that you have to go. I wanted to hear about gambling so bad.
Oh God, man, that's going to be a whole nother show.
All right. So, well, how did you get better? Did you go to treatment for the Adderall, or did you just start going to meetings again?
No, I was so bad. It took me back to the suicide. You know, it took me back down that whole path. And I mean, and alcohol became a part of it again, just because I was in psychosis, bro. I was sleep deprived, hadn't slept for days.
You started drinking again.
So I started drinking again. Yes. So all that came back on effect, and you know, and I'll leave you with a punch. You know, and like I said, we'll have to do something again. I ended up having to go. I was in detox on the first floor at Hogue while my wife's water broke and she was on the fourth floor giving birth to our child.
Wow, that is quite a last image here. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm sorry that I've taken so much time.
No, and I love what you're doing. I really appreciate and respect what you're doing. I'm so sorry to hear, of your friend and what happened to your buddy, but I think it's amazing that you're raising awareness and taking the platform that you guys have to do good with it and, make it more of a talking conversation as opposed to something that has to be stigmatized or looked down upon.
Totally. It was great. It was great talking with you, Jason. Where can people find out stuff about what you're doing?
If people, best way is to either just go to my website, jasonwahler.com, or, Instagram is just my name, Jason Wahler. Probably the best places to go.
Would you say this was the best podcast you've ever been on, Jason?
I think you asked the most informative and deep questions that make you think. And I think I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Usually it's kind of like you do podcasts like this, and it's kind of like you almost have you've kind of got the scenario down of just the questions, you know what I mean? But I love how you made me think. You made me dive back into stuff that is very real, and it's actually very gratifying to see where things are today.
I'm also super pissed that I forgot to ask you about this Spencer Pratt bullshit. How do you deal with that shit? How do you deal with this dude fucking barking at you all day?
Oh, bro, that's a whole nother conversation as well.
All right, next time, gambling and Spencer Pratt.
I'm on it.
All right.
I'm game for that.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much, brother.
Have a great day, man.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Well,
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. So that was the great Jason Wahler. And we're going to get back to me in California with Aurora. But before we do, I just want to remind you guys about Dopey Patreon. Now, a lot of you guys are on Dopey Patreon, and I think you guys are really enjoying the experience. So much bonus material, interviews, music, videos, so much stuff. Me and Howie tasting our way through the Ben & Jerry's catalog. Fucking Eric Roberts was just an interview on Dopey Patreon. My dad, so much good stuff. Go to www.patreon.com/dopeypodcast. Join up. Help us make Dopey dopier. Be a part of the Dopey Nation. And if you sign up for the annual $15 a month, it gets knocked down to $10 a month, and I'll send you a free pair of socks, stickers, plus tons of bonus contact. Please sign up for Dopey Patreon. I'm begging you. No, I'm not begging you. Also, there's tons of good gear available. New shit is come out. New, finally, the alternate Dopey logo shirt. We are in a partnership with SRO Prints out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Please check out the stuff at dopeypodcast.com in the store. I have a few Big Bird beanies left, tons of socks. Hit me up on Venmo if you'd like any of it. Anyway, enough with me advertising all this stuff. Back to Aurora and I. So that was Jason Wahler of the Hills and Laguna Beach. And I feel terrible that we didn't talk about the gambling and Spencer Pratt, because Spencer Pratt is out there trolling this guy. You know anything about Spencer Pratt?
I do know from the Us Weekly days of the early 2000s when they were always on the cover, him and Heidi Montag.
Spidey.
Spidey.
It's so
is,
gross.
Is Jason also a gambling addict?
Yeah, I think he's a gambling addict. He wants to come back to talk about his gambling. Do you ever gamble?
Yes.
What did you get?
Did I tell
hold
you
on,
the story?
Before you tell me, did you get anything about? What did you get out of this interview?
I mean, I relate because I'm working on a television show right now that's much like what he's on and where he came up.
So tell us about that experience.
I mean, the TV show I'm working on right now is like a bunch of kids in their 20s in a reality house style setting where they drink themselves into oblivion.
So it's exactly the show he was on.
Yes,
And
yes.
so how much does the production participate in the kids getting fucked up?
I mean, I think it depends production to production.
Well, your production.
I wasn't there for the filming. I'm just working on the post.
How much would you imagine they're like, here's a case of beer, here's White Claw, here's fucking Coke.
Yes.
Not
Coke, but booze.
Here's some liquid MDMA that we've been developing.
I doubt that.
You know
The
what?
crew would keep that for themselves.
Check this out. I'm just going to change the subject really quick.
Do it.
My cat, I told you, has been running wild on our house, fucking spraying shit with, her urine spray. Linda's certain it's not the same thing. It seems pretty close to me that it's the same thing. Everything is disgusting all the time.
That's disgusting.
And we're just like, we have to get rid of... Linda like freaks out. We have to get rid of the cat. We have to get rid of the cat. And then we both feel guilty and we don't get rid of the cat. So Linda's trying to get this. There's like a woman who runs a shelter, and they say the shelter's full, or a cat sanctuary, and they won't take the cat. But her mother really wants a beautiful black cat, which we have. So like we're trying to give our cat to the lady's mother. So Linda takes the cat. They were like, we just have to make sure that the cat has all of its shots and blah, blah, blah. So Linda takes the cat to the vet. And I was like, listen, we took the cat to the vet in the beginning of this whole thing, but maybe you should just ask the vet what we can do about the spraying.
I was going to ask you if you asked the vet.
The vet says it's a behavioral problem. There's nothing that they can do. The first run around, they gave us Prozac that we had to cut up, like crush, like it's fucking pills, and put it in water and squirt it in the cat's mouth. Then the cat starts like...
Every day you have to do that?
Yeah. The cat like... And like this horrible film of powdery water, goo is coming. She's all this, that. And it didn't do anything. This time, the vet prescribed liquid Xanax for the cat.
Dave, I don't think the way you abuse Benadryl, I don't think you should have liquid Xanax.
I only use Benadryl. I don't abuse Benadryl.
Dave earlier at dinner was like, I'm fucking totally taking Benadryl when I get home.
The truth is, I have a history of using sleep aids, but totally as prescribed,
as prescribed.
As prescribed by myself. But to be totally honest, right? To be totally 100% transparent, Susan, my young little daughter, got sick last week or 2 weeks ago. And she would wake up in the middle of the night and she'd come into our room and wake us up, and then
Are you using your 4-year-old daughter as an
She's
excuse
3.
for why you abuse? She's almost 4 for why you abuse Benadryl.
I'm walking you through what happened.
You're a sick fuck.
Do you want to hear what
You're
happened or
a
not?
sick
Do you
fuck.
not want to know why I've been? Because I have been on a tear. I'm going to tell you what happened.
Okay.
What happened is, so we've decided that we'll let Susan sleep in the bed, and Linda can't sleep in the bed if it's the 3 of us. So I've started sleeping in Susan's bed, which is why the cat has started spraying in that room because of my smell. But if I have to sleep in Susan's bed, I need to take a sleep aid or I can't sleep. It's a tiny bed with a weird bumper on it.
Oh my God.
So I'm totally, I've been taking Benadryl at least 14, 15 days, something like that.
In a row?
I took a couple days off.
Maybe you need to check yourself in for a couple
For
days while you're
Oro?
out here.
See if I can get some Benadryl treatment. I've been taking one piece of Benadryl. It's an over-the-counter antihistamine. It's not habit forming. I could kick anytime I want. It's Benadryl.
Unbelievable.
And then one night I had NyQuil.
Unbelievable.
That was the delicious NyQuil night. It's not why you don't take it. You never take sleep aids.
Dave, I haven't had a mind or mood altering
neither
substance in 6 years.
Benadryl is neither mind nor mood altering. It is an antihistamine. Dopey Nation.
It
Set Aurora
knocks
straight.
you the fuck out.
It's an antihistamine.
That's why you take it. It's a sleep aid.
You take it for allergies, and one of its benefits is it helps you sleep.
I know. I've had to
It
take
is
it
neither
for bad allergy
So you're saying
attacks.
it's mood or it's mind altering or both? Neither. Be honest.
I think it's mind altering
No,
because it puts you to sleep.
What it does is it gives you very complex and fun dreams. Let's move on. We're gonna play. We're gonna play a voicemail, which we haven't done in a long time on the old Dopey Show. And this is not just any voicemail. I know you're a fan of big time recovery meme pages on Instagram. This voicemail is from the brilliant woman behind Brutal Recovery.
Oh, I like that one.
Well, here she
Great.
is. Now, I don't want to say her name. I don't know if she wants to give her name or not. She is the brilliant woman from, I want to say Ireland, but it might be Scotland, behind Brutal Recovery. Is there really any difference between Ireland and Scotland?
Yes.
All right, here we go. And just so you guys know what's going on, she starts really quickly, and she starts talking about how she has an alternate identity. So that's where it starts. And her accent is very thick, but she's very funny. So give it a listen. Here we go. So that was Jason Wahler. No, that didn't work. Fuck. So that was Jason Wahler. What are you doing?
Just checking to see if Jeff texted.
I know, but stay off there because it fucks you up on the show. It really does. You go, oh, it's bad.
What are you talking about?
If
I
you
haven't even done.
you were just doing it before, and it took all of my power not to. You were like, oh, drag.
I
me.
looked to make sure he's not at the door.
Please, he'll call.
No, he won't.
He'll text. You'll see. It'll
told
pop
him
up.
to text.
The thing about texting is it pops up when someone texts.
I'm addicted to my phone.
Well, that's interesting. So that was Jason Wahler of the Hills and Laguna Beach, and I feel terrible that we didn't talk about the gambling and Spencer Pratt, because Spencer Pratt is out there trolling this guy. You know anything about Spencer Pratt?
I do know from the Us Weekly days of the early 2000s when they were always on the cover, him and Heidi Montag.
Spidey.
A Spidey.
It's so
is,
gross.
Is Jason also a gambling addict?
Yeah, I think he's a gambling addict. He wants to come back to talk about his gambling. Do you ever gamble?
Yes.
What did you get?
Did I tell you
Hold
the
on,
story?
before you tell me, did you get anything about? What did you get out of this interview?
I mean, I relate because I'm working on a television show right now that's much like what he's on and where he came up.
So tell us about that experience.
I mean, the TV show I'm working on right now is like a bunch of kids in their 20s in a reality house style setting where they drink themselves into oblivion.
So it's exactly the show he was on.
Yes,
And
yes.
so how much does the production participate in the kids getting fucked up?
I mean, I think it depends production to production.
Well, your production.
I wasn't there for the filming. I'm just working on the post.
How much would you imagine they're like, here's a case of beer, here's White Claw, here's fucking Coke.
Yes.
Not
Coke, but booze.
Here's some liquid MDMA that we've been developing.
I doubt that.
You know
The
what?
crew would keep that for themselves.
Check this out. I'm just going to change the subject really quick.
Do it.
My cat, I told you, has been running wild on our house, fucking spraying shit with, her urine spray. Linda's certain it's not the same thing. It seems pretty close to me that it's the same thing. Everything is disgusting all the time.
That's disgusting.
And we're just like, we have to get rid of Linda, like freaks out. We have to get rid of the cat. We have to get rid of the cat. And then we both feel guilty and we don't get rid of the cat. So Linda's trying to get this. There's like a woman who runs a shelter, and they say the shelter's full, or a cat sanctuary, and they won't take the cat. But her mother really wants a beautiful black cat, which we have. So like we're trying to give our cat to the lady's mother. So Linda takes the cat. They were like, we just have to make sure that the cat has all of its shots and blah, blah, blah. So Linda takes the cat to the vet. And I was like, listen, we took the cat to the vet in the beginning of this whole thing, but maybe you should just ask the vet what we can do about the spraying.
I was going to ask you if you asked the vet.
The vet says it's a behavioral problem. There's nothing that they can do. The first run around, they gave us Prozac that we had to cut up, like crush, like it's fucking pills, and put it in water and squirt it in the cat's mouth. Then the cat starts like...
Every day you have to do that?
Yeah. And the cat's like... And like this horrible film of powdery water, goo is coming. She's all this, that. And it didn't do anything. This time, the vet prescribed liquid Xanax for the cat.
Dave, I don't think the way you abuse Benadryl, I don't think you should have liquid Xanax.
I only use Benadryl. I don't abuse Benadryl.
Dave earlier at dinner was like, I'm fucking totally taking Benadryl when I get home.
I
got a text.
Okay.
Can I check it?
The truth is, I have a history of using sleep aids, but totally as prescribed,
As prescribed.
As prescribed by myself. But to be totally honest, right? To be totally 100% transparent, Susan, my young little daughter, got sick last week or 2 weeks ago. And she would wake up in the middle of the night and she'd come into our room and wake us up, and then we.
Are you using your 4-year-old daughter as an
She's
excuse
3.
for why you abuse? She's almost 4 for why you abuse Benadryl.
I'm walking you through what happened.
You're a sick fuck.
Do you want to hear what
You're a
happened or not?
sick
Do you
fuck.
not want to know why I've been? Because I have been on a tear. I'm going to tell you what happened.
Okay.
What happened is, so we've decided that we'll let Susan sleep in the bed, and Linda can't sleep in the bed if it's the three of us. So I've started sleeping in Susan's bed, which is why the cat has started spraying in that room because of my smell. But if I have to sleep in Susan's bed, I need to take a sleep aid or I can't sleep. It's a tiny bed with a weird bumper on it. Oh my God. So I'm totally, I've been taking Benadryl at least 14, 15 days, something like that.
In a row?
I took a couple days off.
Maybe you need to check yourself in for a couple
For
days while you're
Oro?
out here.
See if I can get some Benadryl treatment. I've been taking one piece of Benadryl. It's an over-the-counter antihistamine. It's not habit forming. I could kick anytime I want. It's Benadryl.
Unbelievable.
And then one night I had NyQuil.
Unbelievable.
That was the delicious NyQuil night. It's not, why, you don't take it, you never take sleep aids?
Dave, I haven't had a mind or mood altering
It's neither
substance in 6 years.
Benadryl is neither mind nor mood altering. It is an antihistamine. Dopey Nation.
It
set Aurora
knocks
straight.
you the fuck out.
It's an antihistamine.
That's why you take it. It's a sleep aid.
You take it for allergies, and one of its benefits is it helps you sleep.
I know. I've had to
It
take
is
it
neither
for bad allergy
So you're
attacks.
saying it's mood or it's mind altering or both? Neither. Be honest.
I think it's mind altering because it puts you to sleep.
What it does is it gives you very complex and fun dreams. Let's move on. We're gonna play. We're gonna play a voicemail, which we haven't done in a long time on the old Dopey Show. And this is not just any voicemail. I know you're a fan of big time recovery meme pages on Instagram. This voicemail is from the brilliant woman behind Brutal Recovery.
Oh, I like that one.
Well, here she is. Now, I don't want to say her name. I don't know if she wants to give her name or not. She is the brilliant woman from, I want to say Ireland, but it might be Scotland, behind Brutal Recovery. Is there really any difference between Ireland and Scotland?
Yes.
All right, here we go. And just so you guys know what's going on, she starts really quickly, and she starts talking about how she has an alternate identity. So that's where it starts. And her accent is very thick, but she's very funny. So give it a listen. Here we go.
So I had this alter ego and active addiction called Galina Rastroprovchina, which is hilarious because it's a name that I can barely pronounce, but I really committed to it. She was born when I tried to move to Russia when I was 18, which is apparently something you need visa and paperwork for. That was not something I cared about at the time, but that's another story. I decided that I was just going to become Galina when I graduated from uni. I went to music and drama school, but I kind of graduated not with a lot of direction, and I was working in a stockroom where I was famous for being sick on a customer during a come down, and I had to take time off work all the time because I was a frequent flyer of the psych ward. But in my mind, I was in a psychological thriller. Like I was a sleeper spy on an espionage mission, when in reality I was kind of just on a ton of drugs and never not drunk. So my career prospects at the time were I was fucking this married guy, and I was really pissed off at him because he wouldn't stop fucking his wife, and I tried to kill myself a lot of times to get his attention. Never fucking worked. So on one of these occasions, I was on my way home from the ER after pulling my IV out, and I went to the pub, as a normal and well-adjusted person does, and I met this guy, and I'd saved him on my phone as Star Cunt, and I've no idea where the name Star Cunt comes from, but he'll always be Star Cunt in my heart. So I decided that I should move in with him, which meant we were just kind of living on a mattress on the floor, just trading chlamydia backwards and forwards. So I really liked Star Cunt because he was a heroin addict, and like I hadn't done heroin since for years at that point because I'm Scottish, and I thought that like if I wasn't doing heroin, that meant that I was sober. So I was like, oh, I can do anything I want, but I'm not doing heroin, so that like totally means I'm sober. So I thought, yeah, I'll just date a heroin addict. There's not going to be any problem there. So I just spent my days in Star Cunt's flat, watching reality TV, smoking weed, and getting drunk. And I thought that at one point that the reality TV was out to get me, and they were sending out all these messages of like how they were going to attack me. And then I started watching Hot Girls Wanted on Netflix, and I was like, oh fuck, like I'm a porn star in Miami right now. That's what my life actually is. I'm a Russian porn star in Miami. So that was my reality, clearly. And there was one night that his flatmate came in, and he was on speed, and he was juggling, and he couldn't understand why his hands didn't work. So he was like, oh, I need to have sex with you so my hands will work again. And Star Cunt said, you can't fuck her, she's my bird. And I thought, oh my God, he's in love with me. So I decided to relapse on heroin because that's what you do when you're in love. And there was this advert in Scotland when I was growing up, which was like, it was a radio ad, and it was like, I would never do heroin. Then it changes to, I'm not addicted to heroin, I only smoked it once. And then it changes to like, I only inject when I'm with my boyfriends. And I realized like, I'm maybe a bit too much like this advert. Like, this could be a problem. And in Scotland, like in my education, the only drug they told me not to do was acid. So I was like, well, I can't do acid, so I'll just switch to ketamine. So there was this one night where Starcunt invited a ton of guys back to the flat. And I mean, I was on ketamine, so I don't know what the fuck was going on. But like when I like woke up, the flat was like completely raided. Like all of our stuff was gone. There was blood everywhere. There was smashed bottles everywhere. Starcunt was gone. And everyone like who was there was like talking about Galina. I was like, who the fuck is Galina? And then I realized like, oh shit, like I'm Galina. I should probably get out of this situation. I might be a bit in over my head here. So I didn't know where I was, despite the fact that I'd lived there for a couple of months. And I just went to the nearest train station. I got some vodka on the way. And when I was at the train station, I had smashed this bottle of vodka on the floor. And I started like scooping, with the smashed glass, I started like scooping the vodka and like drinking it off the floor. And that was the moment where I thought I probably should put Galina to bed. And she's been asleep ever since.
So that's the brilliant, beautiful, Scottish meme maestro from Brutal Recovery. I don't want to say her real name because I never got permission.
Loved her.
Yeah, she's quite the character.
Super dopey.
Quite the character. Dopey Nation, that's how it's done. And I think this woman, whatever I want to call her, Brutal Recovery, is going to come on the show.
Oh, good. I bet she has a great story.
Well, Aurora, anything else you'd like to add before we end this thing?
I think there should be a DopeyCon Los Angeles.
I think there should be, too. I had secret dopey business to do right now. Mm-hmm. I was trying to arrange it so this super dopey business would be in late January, but it couldn't be done. I had to come now. So DopeyCon in LA, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I think I just want you to focus on dopey business that will bring you out to the West Coast more.
Well, check it out. Aurora is very excited to be getting dopey socks. Are you excited to get dopey socks?
New merch. I haven't had new merch in a long time.
Well, you haven't shown your face anywhere
About
to get it.
3 years.
Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
Do you want stickers too?
No.
No stickers?
No.
Why not?
Because
you're not a kid or a skateboarder?
Yes.
All right. Well, if you guys want stickers, hit me up and I'll send you stickers. And if you want socks, buy some fucking socks.
I want socks.
All right.
Stocking stuffer.
Do you want the praying mantis with the Misfits logo that looks like this, or do you want the Big Bird socks?
I need to see them.
All right. Thank you, Aurora.
Thanks, Dave.
Stay strong, Dopey Nation. Fucking toodles for Chris.
Minase toodles.
We'll catch you next time.
Oh, we didn't talk about the Beatles doc, but I haven't watched it yet, so let's talk about that next time.
Stay strong, Dopey Nation.
I want to take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good? Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And I want to take a ride up in the sky. Watch this aeroplane just pass me by. And I want to see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to where I stand. Shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to where I stand. would they pay it any mind when I leave this busted city far behind? I'll take the high road, however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. And I wanna be good so bad. Wanna be good so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Damn it, all these suckers make me mad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and I wanna call my dad. And it's all I ever had. 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 And these suckers make me mad, and it's all I ever had. And I wanna call my dad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had.